I asked a question. Are the Cowboys the team to beat if they win this game?
No.
I haven't heard a definitive answer from you. I haven't heard that. Okay. Go ahead. You may continue.
They are.
You may continue.
Hey, Stephen A.
My
You
reading
are the
comprehension is
host
horrible.
now. The host does not get to interrupt the guest analyst. That's not the way it works. You don't get to be Molly and Stephen A. You got to pick one. So while you're being Molly, while you're being the host, you got to let us talk. And then when it's your turn to be Stephen A,
answer the question,
you get to be
though.
Stephen A. Here's the thing.
He got to answer the question.
Here's what's good about the show. I actually host a TV show. A bunch of them. So I know too. Continue, Bart. I don't let that man cut you off. You answer your question how you answer your question.
Now he's back. Thank you. Welcome back, Molly.
Thank you.
Welcome back,
I don't think they're the team to
back.
beat because I think that the 49ers believe that they can go into Dallas and go on the road and beat them because they've done it. So, what this is about is can Dallas feel like they can go in a hostile environment and win? And I think the answer is no, because I think the 49ers are slightly better. And I think Dak, especially if they're going to hold Dak back and talk about play safe football, that's not a recipe for success. And you don't pay a guy $45 million to be that guy. You pay Brock Purdy to be that guy. Is that good enough, Stephen A?
So first off, I don't think it makes them the team to beat because they're still the Philadelphia Eagles, not only in the NFC, but in the NFC East. That team is still undefeated. The Detroit Lions are playing better ball right now. And also, Dak Prescott has actually played well against the San Francisco 49ers during the season. He just hasn't performed in the playoffs against this team. So is it the stage or is it the team? And so I don't necessarily think you get that from this game. What you do get, though, is Dak Prescott being able to rise to the occasion. What you are looking for is Dak Prescott to protect the football, Dak Prescott to execute in the red zone. You're looking at this defense that was absolutely pummeled by the Arizona Cardinals in the run game with physicality, with James Conner and Josh Dobbs, to be able to stand up to Christian McCaffrey, who right now, to me, is the best running back in all of football. Now, here is where I push back against Bart. Bart says that Brock Purdy has a higher floor than Dak Prescott. That's cap. Because when Dak Prescott got into the league and when Dak Prescott was the quarterback and Ezekiel Elliott was in his prime in his rookie year, Dak Prescott was 12-4. Dak Prescott took over a team for a guy in Tony Romo who went to the exact same college that Jimmy Garoppolo played for, who Brock Purdy took over for. When he took over for him, taking over for somebody in Dallas who was the linchpin, who was the franchise quarterback, who was the guy they depended on, Dak Prescott was a Pro Bowl player. Brock Purdy ain't asked to do half the stuff that Dak Prescott does. And what he's asked to do, he does well. Brock Purdy processes. Brock Purdy anticipates. Brock Purdy gets the football out of his hands. Brock Purdy makes sure that Deebo Samuel can get it behind the line, can get it 10 yards in front of the line, and get yards after the catch. That when George Kittle is on the crosser, he puts the football in his hands. Christian McCaffrey on the swing route. Christian McCaffrey on the option. Christian McCaffrey on the screen. Brandon Ayuk, great route running 15 yards down the field in the intermediate part of the field, making plays. He does all of those things. Dak Prescott is asked to do more. Dak Prescott should be able to do more. Dak Prescott sure as hell better do more this week. This isn't about what this says about the Dallas Cowboys. It isn't about what Brock Purdy, what this win would say about the Dallas Cowboys, or whether or not it makes them the team to beat in the NFC. This is a game that they have to play well, that they have to win for their locker room, and that's what this is about.
Right. Well, let me tell you something, RC. I appreciate that breakdown, but I think there's something that you're missing here. And that's and even though it's going to sound like I'm trolling them, I'm actually being very serious about this. There's a legitimate argument that can be made that this is such a key game to the Dallas Cowboys because it shows that it may be further proof that they're just allergic to prosperity. Let's take into account what transpired last year. Last year, this was the #1 team with their red zone offense. 40 touchdowns, all right? 40 touchdowns and 56 trips in the red zone. That's a 71% effectiveness, 71%. That was first in the National Football League. What are they right now, RC and Bart Scott? They're 30th. 30th in the red zone. 7 touchdowns and 19 trips. They went from 71% to 37%. So really what you want to make an argument, you want to support Dak Prescott with an argument? How about transitioning from Dak Prescott to Mike McCarthy? because it's Mike McCarthy that wanted Kellen Moore gone. It was the Dallas Cowboys that were averaging 29 points a game last year. It was the Dallas Cowboys that was #1 in red zone efficiency. It was the Dallas Cowboys that were doing their things offensively. And it was Mike McCarthy getting Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones to co-sign on the notion that Kellen Moore was so interested in just putting up points that it was compromising the effectiveness and efficiency of the defense because it wasn't giving them enough rest. It wasn't spelling for them. Well, okay, now you've addressed that. So you're running the football a little bit more. You're throwing it a little bit less. And as a result, the defense is rested. They seem augmented. They seem vicious, okay, and elite. So the defense is there even without Trayvon Diggs. God bless him, and we hope he gets well soon. But offensively,
yes.
What are you doing when your opportunities present themselves? It's nothing compared to what you did last year. And if the Dallas Cowboys end up showing that yet again, if they're moving the ball down the field, but they get into the red zone and they can't close the deal against San Francisco, and it's another nail biter, okay, but San Francisco walks out victorious. And we look at the Philadelphia Eagles down the line, and that appears to be the same thing. And the Detroit Lions are creeping up. And then a playoff comes, and the Dallas Cowboys yet again find a way to not get it done. And we're able to point to a lack of efficiency on the offensive side of the ball. When you wanted these changes, then excuse me, we're going to look at Dak Prescott because inevitably the moment will arrive where he's going to have to step up and show what he's capable of, but we can't let Mike McCarthy off the hook either. That's the best thing Dak Prescott has going for him, Mike McCarthy, because if it doesn't work out, we'll be able to look at Mike McCarthy because Mike McCarthy is the one that wanted these changes, and Dak Prescott will be able to say, yo, the year before, we were #1 and we were flowing, and y'all wanted these changes. We did it, and look where it got us. So it's about Mike McCarthy. It's the best argument you can make for Dak Prescott. Outside of that, it's on him because moments matter. You're being paid. You're the quarterback for the star. You got to get it done.
What makes this the most fierce rivalry in the NFL?
But you have two teams that are carbon copies of each other with the same belief about how winning is done. You talk about the physicality. You talk about the names. You talk about the legacy, right? When you play this game, you don't play for the fans. You play for the alumni. You play so that you can be a Raven, right? And you hear Raekwon Smith talking about until you beat the Steelers, you are not a Raven. And it is a physical consequence to play when you play in this game. This is a double chin strap game. You leave less of a human being after these games, whether you win it or lose it. These are the games where there are physical and mental consequences. You talk about football played at its highest level. You talk about chess, not checkers. You talk about football acumen. You talk about personalities. You talk about professionalism. You talk about Hall of Famers. You talk about Super Bowls. That's why this is the best rivalry in football, and it ain't even close. The most physical team wins, and both teams are physical. You will not be disappointed. It doesn't matter who's at quarterback, no matter who's at linebacker, no matter who's at safety. You cannot miss this game because it's going to be played with passion and a sense of urgency. You think it's the damn Super Bowl with the effort that you get on these types of games.
Can I say this real quick before Ryan chimes in, because this is really about y'all and not me. I will say this, though. You know, it really would help if you looked at it and you saw an even matchup. The reality is coming into this game, based on the way the Steelers have looked. I understand the history of AFC North competition. Please don't get me wrong. And I understand the history of the Steelers. I'm a Steelers fan. The history of the Steelers-Ravens rivalry speaks for itself. My problem is RC articulated it several times this week. I have as well. You know, the Steelers need to make change. Where the hell is that change that Mike Tomlin promised us? I understand it's one thing to score 7 points in the opener against the San Francisco 49ers. It's another thing to score 6 points against the Houston Texans. Now, the Houston Texans are on a come up. C.J. Stroud, love him. D'Amico Ryans, love him. But the fact of the matter is they got punked last week. That's a real embarrassment. And I got a quarterback that's completed 60% of his passes, that's got as many interceptions as touchdowns, both 4. And I got a running game that's virtually non-existent because an offensive line that forgot how to block. I got receivers either getting hurt or, you know what, you got a quarterback that can't get him the damn football. It is bad. And to me, when I look at the Steelers, it's an incredible disappointment. And that level of loyalty that got Mike Tomlin holding on to Matt Canada is really inexplicable to me. It has to be addressed because I believe the man has to go. He's had 3 years to be an offensive coordinator and show what he can do. And he's gotten worse, not better.
So everything that Bart Scott said about this rivalry is absolutely true. There were a couple of things you look at when you got a schedule. You look for your bye week. You look to see what primetime games you had. And if you played for the Steelers or the Ravens, you wanted to know who you played the next week because you knew the team you played the next week would have a physical advantage against you because the way that you were beat up that night, because it was a primetime game, the way that you would get beat up that night against the Baltimore Ravens or the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you were one of those teams, was not even on the same level as playing 3 other games against 3 other teams on the same day because it was that important. And when you walked out and you looked across the sideline, everything felt like a carbon copy. You know, we felt like we had great linebackers. They had great linebackers. We knew Haloti Ngata was going to be the linchpin of that defensive line, and they knew that Casey Hampton would be immovable. We knew that Ed Reed was going to make plays and Troy Polamalu was going to come right behind him and make plays. We knew that we had 2 coaches that when they looked across at one another, they saw another guy who was going to one day have a gold jacket. That junk ain't the same no more. Now, when Lamar Jackson walks out, we see an MVP and a guy that's possible to win another MVP and that's probably going to win a Super Bowl. We ain't got that in our guy. Now, when they walk out on the other side, they got Todd Monken and they feel like they can do all kind of things and we can't. This ain't the same rivalry, and we have to be honest about that, and it's because the Pittsburgh Steelers ain't the same team.
But it's flipped before, right? Because you guys had Ben Roethlisberger. We had Kyle Bowler. Right, but it don't matter. It's not the best team. It's the toughest team. And that's why it's the equal linchpin, because you don't always have the best quarterback. It's
but
just flip that we got the franchise quarterback.
But we're questioning their toughness, Bart. That's the problem. I get what you're saying about the quarterback, and I understand that. But you're looking at the skill position. I'm talking about what your original argument was and what it personified. It's the toughness. And we didn't see that from the Pittsburgh Steelers on several occasions on both sides of the football already this season. That's the problem. And that's why Mike Tomlin went in that post-game conference saying the things that he said. It wasn't that they lost, it's that it's an absence of toughness.